God, do you feel about talking about your sexuality on camera?
God, I am a goddess, sex god, and I feel great about talking about my sexuality on camera. I love it. Let's talk about orgasms. Let's talk about like how to actually find yourself and find what you like. Like I have no qualms. I'm like, please, you want to talk about anal? Let's talk about anal.
When did you discover your pleasure?
I learned at least what I assumed the pleasure of sex was in elementary school when I stumbled upon porn. And it didn't go very well at first because I thought that anything could go inside of the vagina. And no, you should not use anything in your room for masturbation. But yeah, so middle school was when I was like, oh, this is nice. My parents never had the real like sit down conversation where they walk you through everything. We had little bits where we hit on things occasionally when like things arose and you're like, oh crap, I need to address this. Like when I found my dad's porn with my younger brother. That was a conversation. I was like, yeah, this is a thing. This is for grown-ups. You leave it alone. We did not leave it alone. I was too intrigued by then. Like I was like, what do you mean I get to see boobs? I should have known I was a little bit gay. And then my mom like had another conversation with me when I was like getting a lot of UTIs and yeast infections from like playing with myself in a not safe manner. And then she had a conversation. And that one I remember because it was so embarrassing. She was like in her room and me and my brothers were in there. And she was like, boys, like cover your ears. And she was like, do you play with yourself? And I was like, Ma! I'm like, oh my God, no. And she was like, all right, well, if you do, just like wash your hands. And I was like, okay. And my brothers are in the room. I was like, they did not cover their ears. This is so embarrassing because, of course, it's so much easier for boys. Like, the conversation is like, yeah, do it into a sock. Girls, it's just like, but also we're trained to think that it's bad that a girl touches herself. Now I'm like, I masturbate every day. And dear Lord, now I am the world's biggest advocate for toy cleaner. After I gave my first blowjob, I talked to my mom. And it was because I felt so bad about it. I was like, I don't know, this was bad. I wasn't supposed to do this. So at first I went and talked to my pastor at church because I was like, I'm probably going to hell. I sucked a boy's penis. And he was not prepared for that conversation. He was floored and he was like, I think that this is a conversation for your mother. So then when we left church, I'm like sitting in the front seat with her and my brothers are in the back seat. I literally was like, Ma, I have to tell you something and you're gonna be upset with me. But I can't not tell you. And she's like, oh God, okay. And it was like, I sucked a boy's penis and I told Pastor Pines and he told me that I needed to tell you. And she was like, oh God. She's like trying not to laugh at me, but so bad wants to laugh at me. She's like, that's okay. That's okay. We're just not going to tell your father. And I was like, oh, good, good.
Do you have a sexual orientation?
I do have a sexual orientation. I split it between three identifiers. I either go by bisexual, pansexual, or queer, depending on who I'm talking to, because some people know all the definitions. Other people honestly think that everything that is gay and it all means the same thing. I'm fine with honestly any way anybody wants to describe me, except for when people like try the whole bi erasure thing. They're like, oh, you're just in a phase, or like, you're just like a half lesbian. Like, that's when I'm like, no, 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 no. Being bisexual is a real thing. Also, at the end of the day, no, I just have more love and attraction to all of the human race than you. Don't be jealous. Just accept it and move on.
What myths or beliefs about sex have you dispelled?
So I guess the biggest myth is the one that like it's all about the men's pleasure. So now I'm like, I don't walk into it and I'm like, okay, well, he came, so that's the end. I'm like, no. Mama still needs some loving, so I'm gonna get it. Also, I've learned some great techniques for doing that. Like, we don't get to penetrative until like you've gone down because most women reach climax via clitoral stimulation. So I'm just like, hey, nope. If I'm gonna suck your penis, you're gonna give her some loving because Hershey likes to be eaten. It's a piece of chocolate. I guess the other biggest one is there's so many factors that play into you actually reaching an orgasm, and it is not a guarantee every time. Don't put the pressure of having to have an orgasm on it because it devalues the experience.
What does safe sex mean to you?
child. Safe sex for me, because I sleep with multiple people within a month. I get tested monthly. Literally at the beginning of every month, I go either to an urgent care or my actual doctor. I'm like, hi. And it means using condoms with every man. And I've gotten better at having the conversations with people before actually engaging in sexual activity. Like, hey, like, have you been tested recently? Because, like, I have. So, like, I know that I am coming to the table all good. Are you?
What do you like?
I like anal, from actual penetrative anal sex to anal toys to analingus. I love all things anal. Like, I'm a big fan of the butthole. I specifically love like anal plugs just because, one, they're like art for your butthole, but also because they allow you to have like that double penetration feeling during just like regular penetrative sex with one partner, which is real nice. I actually am a big fan of blowjobs. Like, I love giving blowjobs. Like, nothing feels as great as putting a penis in my mouth and making a man reach orgasm with my tongue. I like being choked. Breath play is hot. Like, it's just like this like hot thing where you're like kind of like letting someone almost kill you but not kill you. I enjoy dominating others. Like, I love it. I love it a lot. Like, I love being the one to be like, no, like, you're going to do what I say, how I say it right now in this moment. I like it because I've worked to like gain so much more knowledge in sex and sexuality that I think it's easier for me as a dominant to help people get out of their comfort zones to be able to push the boundaries and explore more. So that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I like it. Because I'm like, as a dominant, I'm like, no, you want this? You want to try this? Then we're trying it. Oh, I have over 15 toys. So many people get scared and they're like, oh, if a woman has a lot of toys, that means she doesn't need a man. No, if a woman has a lot of toys, that means she's trying to enhance it for both of y'all. Like, support toys, love toys, get toys, because they change the dynamic of any sexual encounter. Always. Also, because toys help it so you get all the stimulations. Like, if they're stimulating your G-spot via penetration, a toy can offer you that clitoral stimulation, and then you just hit the money. Like, you hit the jackpot.
What would you say to you is the purpose of sex?
For me, my biggest purpose of it is the pleasure aspect for the euphoria. It is my stress relief. Like, that's the only way that I actually know how to like relieve stress in a healthy manner. Depending on the way you are entering it, it can actually be this like powerful spiritual interaction that changes you.
If you could go back and give your younger self advice, what would you say?
Don't think that you can only do it when you're in love, because some people don't fall in love as easy, but also you don't always fall in love with the right people. And if I hadn't equated like sex with love, I probably wouldn't have like continued in a relationship with them or like continued to engage with them sexually. Don't be afraid to speak up. If you're not enjoying it, if it doesn't feel right, if you want to change your mind at all, go ahead and do that. Like, be vocal about it. I didn't really know how to say no to people, and then I've had sex with a lot of people that I did not want to have sex with. Girl, you loud. Be loud. Say it. Talking about women's pleasure is important right now because I would say we're in the midst of a revolution. Every day there is something else that we are like pushing against. A big thing in politics right now is like women's bodies, like us having the right to make choices and do what we want to do with our bodies, though the law tries to put all these parameters and rules on us. Right now is the time that we need to talk about it. Sex would be completely different for so many people if, when they were younger, they had a conversation that explained it in a very clear way, in an open way that didn't make you feel shamed for masturbating or thinking the thoughts you think or doing any of the stuff you do. So being able to see people like you talking about it makes a world of difference. Being able to sit there and be like, no, I feel the exact same way. Like, I am not a slut. Like, I just am reclaiming my sexuality. And if you want to use that word, I will take it as the compliment it is.